All right, let's dive into something we see every day but might not think much about. Surface tension. It's kind of wild how this force shapes so many things around us, like raindrops and those little bugs that walk on water. What is it about surface tension that makes it so fascinating?
It's like an invisible skin on liquids, and it's all because of how the molecules at the surface interact.
So, like a super thin film stretched over the liquid. What makes it so different from the rest of the liquid?
Well, think about those molecules at the very top. They're not surrounded by as many of their own kind compared to the ones deeper down. So they cling tighter to each other, forming this more cohesive, almost elastic-like layer.
Ah, so like they're holding on for dear life because they have fewer buddies nearby. But why does that make the liquid try to shrink its surface?
It's like they're trying to minimize their contact with the outside world. They pull inward, reducing the surface area. That's what creates that elastic quality, that tendency to become as compact as possible.
That's why water beads up on a waxed car, right? Trying to become a tiny sphere.
Exactly. A sphere is the most efficient shape to minimize surface area. That's why we see spheres everywhere in nature, like raindrops.
But wait, gravity pulls down on those drops, right? How can something so delicate resist gravity?
You'd be surprised how strong surface tension is, especially in small drops. Think of a dripping faucet, how the drop hangs there, stretching before it falls.
Yeah, it's like it's fighting to stay a perfect little sphere.
That's exactly it. It's a constant tug of war between surface tension and gravity. Eventually, gravity wins, but that tension shows us how powerful surface tension really is.
Okay, that's super cool. But if surface tension makes liquids want to contract, how can bugs like water striders actually float on top of water? They're denser than water, right?
It's all about the balance of forces. You've got the water strider's weight pushing down, but you also have surface tension pushing up at the points where its legs touch the water. If the strider's weight is spread out enough and it doesn't break the surface tension can support it, like a tiny trampoline.
So surface tension is like this invisible force field, supporting things we wouldn't expect. Is it also the reason why oil and water don't mix?
You got it? The forces holding water molecules together are way stronger than the forces between water and oil. They try to minimize contact, creating those layers we see.
Wow, that's making me rethink my salad dressing. So this force shapes how water behaves, but does it work with other liquids too?
Absolutely. It's fundamental to all liquids, although how strong it is can vary. Like, have you ever noticed those little rigulets that form inside a wine glass, the tears of wine?
Oh yeah. I always thought that was just the wine being fancy.
Well, it is kind of fancy, but it's really because of the difference in surface tension between water and alcohol. Alcohol evaporates quicker, changing the surface tension of the wine and creating that upward flow.
So surface tension is like this artist shaping liquids in fascinating ways. But is it just a natural thing, or can we mess with it?
Oh, we can totally manipulate it. We do it all the time. Think about soap bubbles. They're just thin films of water. They wouldn't exist without surfactants.
Surfactants, like in soap, right?
Exactly. They lower the surface tension of water, which lets those big, delicate bubbles form. Without them, the water would just bead up and wouldn't make those thin films.
So they're like surface tension rebels, breaking up the tight grip between water molecules.
That's a great way to put it. And that rebellious quality is what makes them so useful, not just for bubbles, but for a ton of other things.
Okay, I'm hooked. Tell me more about these surface tension rebels and what they do.
Well, a great example is emulsions, like mayonnaise or salad dressings. They're mixtures of oil and water, two things that normally don't like to mix.
Right, they usually just separate.
Exactly. But surfactants can lower surface tension and act as a bridge between those different types of molecules. This lets the tiny oil droplets spread out in the water, creating a stable emulsion that actually tastes good.
So surfactants are like peacemakers, keeping the oil and water from fighting. It's amazing how this thing we barely notice plays such a big role in the food we eat.
And it's not just food. They're also really important in cleaning products, helping detergents get into fabrics and SERPs break down on grease. They're even in paints and inks, helping to create smooth, even coatings.
Wow, surfactants are like the unsung heroes of our everyday lives. But we've been talking about flat surfaces. What happens with surface tension when things get turvier, like inside a glass or a water droplet?
That's where things get even more interesting. Because surface tension doesn't just act on flat surfaces. It creates pressure differences across curved surfaces. And the smaller the curve, the higher the pressure inside.
Smaller curve, higher pressure. Can you give me a real-world example, something I can picture easily?
Sure. Think about blowing up a balloon. The smaller the balloon, the harder you have to blow to fill it, right? That's because the pressure inside is higher due to that increased curvature.
Okay, I'm starting to get it. So we've got these pressure differences caused by surface tension. But how does that actually affect things in the real world?
Let's go back to those floating objects we were talking about. It's not just about the weight pushing down and surface tension pushing up. The angle at which the liquid touches the solid, the contact angle, also plays a role.
Contact angle, like how a water droplet sits on a surface.
Exactly. For example, on a super hydrophobic surface like Teflon, water has a large contact angle. It beads up tightly, almost like it's being repelled by the surface.
Ah, so that's why water just rolls right off nonstick pans, like the surface is saying, nope, not today.
That's a great way to think about it. And on the flip side, a super hydrophilic surface has a tiny contact angle, so the water spreads out to maximize contact. It's all a balance between the liquid's surface tension and how much it's attracted to the solid.
Wow, surface tension is like a magician shaping liquids in these incredible
And
ways.
we're only scratching the surface. Did you know that surface tension even helps trees draw water up their trunks against gravity?
Wait, really? Trees use surface tension? How is that even possible?
It's called capillary action. Basically, the balance between surface tension and the forces between the water and those tiny channels inside the tree lets the water climb upward. It defies gravity.
That's incredible. Like nature has figured out how to use surface tension to its advantage.
Exactly, and this phenomenon is everywhere. It's in how water moves through soil, how ink flows in a pen.
This is mind-blowing. It's like surface tension is hidden in plain sight, shaping our world in so many ways.
And there's so much more to explore. We haven't even touched on how surface tension affects puddles or how water streams break into droplets. There's a whole universe of amazing things driven by this seemingly simple force.
I can't wait to dive deeper. You've definitely opened my eyes to a whole new way of seeing things. Stay tuned, listeners, because we're going to uncover even more secrets of surface tension. So we've talked about how amazing surface tension is, but you mentioned that even something as simple as a puddle is connected to surface tension. What's that about?
You might not believe this, but a puddle doesn't just keep spreading out. It actually has pretty much fixed thickness. And yep, surface tension is the reason.
Wait, so there's like a scientific reason why puddles are, well, puddly.
Exactly. It's a balance between gravity wanting to flatten the puddle and surface tension wanting to keep it as small as possible. And the angle the water makes with the ground, the contact angle, is important too.
So the type of surface under the puddle changes how thick it gets.
That's right. On a smooth surface like asphalt, a puddle will be thinner than on a rougher surface like soil.
That makes sense. I've noticed that puddles on sidewalks dry faster than puddles in the grass.
It's true. And speaking of water, surface tension is also why a stream of water from a faucet breaks up into droplets.
Yeah, it's like water just has to become a droplet.
Well, it's because of something called plateau Rayleigh instability. Basically, tiny disturbances in the water stream, like from air or vibrations, get bigger because of surface tension.
So those little imperfections cause the stream to break up.
Right. Those disturbances grow and pinch off the stream, making those perfect little droplets.
You're making me look at water in a whole new way. So we've seen surface tension in nature, but you said we could manipulate it. Can we actually control it?
Oh, yeah, we can. And we're getting better at it all the time. Remember those surfactants we talked about? They're not just for bubbles and mayonnaise.
Right. They weaken the surface tension of water. What else can they do?
Well, scientists are using them to make some really cool new materials. For example, they're creating surfaces that are super hydrophobic, like lotus leaves, and they can be used for all sorts of things.
Super hydrophobic, so they like really repel water?
Exactly. They have these microscopic textures that trap air and special coatings that don't attract water much, so water just beads up and rolls right off, taking dirt with it.
Whoa, that's like a self-cleaning surface. Where would you use that kind of technology?
Pretty much anywhere. Self-cleaning windows, stain-resistant clothes, even surfaces that don't ice up on airplanes.
That's incredible. It's like we're learning to speak surface tension's language and use it for new things.
And we're doing even more than that. Scientists are looking at how to use surface tension to move tiny drops of liquid around. They're making what they call labs on a chip for medical tests and delivering medicine.
Hold on, labs on a chip. That sounds like science fiction.
I know, right? But it's becoming real. By controlling surface tension, scientists can move, mix, and study tiny amounts of liquids. This opens up all sorts of possibilities for personalized medicine and figuring out if someone's sick really quickly.
So we started with simple raindrops, and now we're talking about changing healthcare with surface tension.
Exactly. It just shows that even the simplest things in nature can be super powerful. And the more we learn about surface tension, the more we see how much it affects our world, often in ways we never expected.
I think surface tension might be the most underrated force out there.
It deserves way more attention. But we still have so much to learn. For example, we talked about surface tension in liquids, but what about solids? Does it play a role there too?
That's a great question. I hadn't even thought about surface tension in solids.
Well, it turns out it does affect solids, especially at really small scales, like the nanoscale. That's where surfaces become super important.
Nanoscale. So we're talking about the world of atoms and molecules.
Exactly. At that size, the way a material acts can change a lot because of surface tension.
Okay, this is getting pretty complex. I'm excited to learn more about how surface tension works in the nano world.
Well, get ready because we're about to take our exploration of surface tension to a whole new level.
Okay, I'm ready for this nano adventure. So surface tension in solids, especially at the nanoscale, what's different about the nano world when we're talking about surface tension?
Well, it's all about the surface area compared to the volume. When you shrink things down to the nanoscale, the surface area gets huge compared to its volume.
Okay, so like imagine a big beach ball. It's got a lot of volume compared to its surface. But if you shrink it down to the size of a grain of sand, suddenly the surface seems way bigger in proportion.
Exactly. And at that tiny nanoscale, that giant surface area means those surface tension forces we've been talking about become super strong.
So it's like those surface molecules suddenly have a lot more power to influence how the material behaves.
Exactly. They can really change the material's properties, like how it melts, how strong it is, even how it reacts with other things.
That's amazing. So how are scientists using this new power of surface tension at the nanoscale?
One area is nanomaterials. They're creating nanoparticles with special surfaces that can target specific cells in the body, like cancer cells.
So they're designing these tiny particles to act like smart bombs, using surface tension to guide them to the right place.
That's the idea. And because they're so small, they can get into tissues and deliver drugs much better than normal methods.
That's incredible. Any other nano things being created with surface tension?
Yeah, another cool thing is self-assembly. Scientists can use surface tension to make molecules arrange themselves into complicated structures like tiny wires or tubes, all on their own.
Wait, so they're not building these structures themselves. The molecules are doing it automatically.
Yep. It's like giving the molecules instructions based on their surface properties, and they just follow those instructions to make these amazing structures.
This is blowing my mind. We're learning how to use the invisible forces of nature to make totally new materials and technology.
And we're just getting started. As we learn more about surface tension, especially at these tiny scales, who knows what we'll discover?
You've definitely made me see this often overlooked force in a whole new way. I'm seeing surface tension everywhere now, from the way water drops form to the most advanced nanotechnology.
That's what's so cool about really exploring a topic. It shows us the hidden wonders all around us and makes us want to keep learning.
So to everyone listening, keep asking questions, keep exploring, and don't underestimate the simple things. Sometimes the most amazing discoveries are hidden in plain sight.
Absolutely. And remember, there's always more to learn. Keep diving deeper, and you never know what you might find.
That's right. Until next time, stay curious, everyone.